Hello, my friends. This is kind of in continuation of the last two videos that I put out of what I've understood of the events that are happening in physical Israel, what they actually mean for those of us who know the Lord, and for those of us who are looking at these times and trying to bring understanding to them. So I spoke about these things, and I spoke about how in the very same night that Israel was attacked, I had a dream of the aquariums. Second time that I've had a dream about aquariums. It happened in that same night. But when the aquariums this time fell, they were stacked one on top of each other, three different aquariums on top of each other. When they fell over, I was able to walk by and put them back in place, put the fish back in the aquariums, and everything was seemingly back to normal after that. But the one thing I really took notice of in the dream is that the aquariums then were weak. They were no longer sturdy. In other words, if you just walked by it and brushed it, they might fall over and collapse then. So I said that perhaps we're in a period where there's going to come more birthing pains, but then something's going to happen which brings the world back from the brink yet again. But as I'm looking at this and understanding possibly better of what that aquarium situation meant in my dreams, you have exactly to fulfill the scriptures of Luke 21 now in play. And Jesus gives specific warning to that land, as I've declared many of times. It's going to be wiped off the face of the earth. God is going to make sure that Israel is gone. And when this happens, it removes the golden calf. It throws the golden calf into the fire. Because Israel, the physical land and the physical things and the traditions and the Jews and all these other things, the church has come to turn it into an idol rather than recognize what it is. The house that Satan now owns, Revelation 2:9. The church can't see this because they're enamored by it, looking on the outside of the cup. They're enamored by the lying signs and wonders. They're enamored by that fatal head wound, yet was seemingly healed, to again bring a people and a nation together that calls themselves chosen when they are not chosen, when they were divorced and issued that decree of divorce 2,000 years ago on the cross when it was finished. So you have this situation come up now. We're looking back at this dream and looking at Luke 21. I see where everything that I spoke of can happen right at this time, because you see the armies, they have surrounded Jerusalem, and notice only in Luke 21 does it say this specific passage. And let's look at it here. The destruction of Jerusalem. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her. This is meaning, Jesus is saying, giving warning, that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. It's going to be wiped out. It's going to be judged. And notice they're talking about how the event that happened there was just like America's 9/11. They're making the case for everything that I'm showing you here. That Revelation 17:18, New York City, that great city that is destroyed in an hour, it's directly tied to Jerusalem, which also is destroyed in an hour, and it's destroyed by fire, just as in the days of Lot. And what did God do with Joseph, for instance? He led him out into Egypt by a dream because Herod was trying to hunt down and kill Jesus. So what is this warning to those living in Satan's land right now? Well, now that you see Jerusalem surrounded by its enemies, it's time to get out of there. It's time to flee it. So that anybody that is living in Jerusalem right now, who sees these things happen, who actually knows the Lord, you can bet that they're going to be departing. They are going to get out of there because they recognize the word, just like Joseph recognized the dream. Don't anybody go in who is of the Lord. Stay out of it. Stay away from it, because it's marked for destruction. Jerusalem is going to go up in flames. The golden calf is going to be thrown into the fire. And you see this right now playing out. And I don't know, obviously, how many people are in there who know the Lord, but I definitely know there are some. But even in this circumstance, all of those people there who are of God are not all going to be able to depart. Something No matter if it's a physical thing or if it's a different tie down, maybe even by the government oppressing them, whatever the case is, there are going to be those living in Jerusalem who will not be able to depart by their own means. And that brings you right to the days of Lot. That brings you right to the rescue, the rapture, before the sudden destruction comes upon them all. It brings you into that hour where those who are unable to flee, who are of the Lord himself sends his angels into the world to gather his elect from the four corners, where the dead rise first, the resurrection, to meet the Lord in the air with all of those left who are alive and waiting on him, all of those who knew the Lord. And then what does it say? For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. You have Israel saying, we're going to take vengeance on our enemies. They're putting it in their own hands. And you have the church saying, pray for Israel, pray for peace. Not understanding that they're praying for Satan's vengeance to be poured out onto the world because they have everything wrong. These aren't the days of vengeance of a people calling themselves chosen or a people that are calling themselves Gentiles. These are the days of vengeance of God. And he's going to pour out the judgment over all of the earth because of those days of vengeance. And then what does it say? But woe to those who are pregnant and those who are nursing babies in those days, for there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. And they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Go back to the aquarium fish tanks. After they fell, seemingly they were able to be picked up and stacked back on top of each other, but they were stacked weakly. And then it led to the dream I had months ago about the aquarium just suddenly smashing and all the water and the fish going out of the aquarium because it shatters. After the rapture, one will be taken, one will be left. Those who are of the Lord are gathered, and those who are not of the Lord are not. After the rapture, and after Jerusalem is a heap of ashes, then who comes to the forefront to build it back? Just as what happened in New York City in 2001. We will build it back stronger, we will build it back better, we will build it back higher, as they rebuilt the towers, saying that vengeance is America's in 2001. And now what's happening in Jerusalem and in Israel? They're doing exactly the same thing because it's exactly the same judgment coming to both. They're tied. Both of them knew the Lord once and caught in adultery whenever he's looking for faith on the earth, which is what the Lord is doing right now. The judgment is the same. And that golden calf, when it goes into the fire, then what is allowed to happen to start the great tribulations, which we see later on down here? The Antichrist is able to rise to power, to build the land back, to form a peace agreement. Hey, look at all this devastation. We don't want this. I will build it back better. I will make peace in the land. Here is the mark. We will change everything, and we will live in harmony and in peace. The Antichrist steps up and rebuilds the temple, the physical temple, Herod's temple, Solomon's temple, back in Jerusalem to unite everybody. Building back the aquariums, but weakly, because God is not with them. You have this very literally able to happen at any point in time. Jerusalem set ablaze. New York City set ablaze in the same hour. And God gathers his elect from the four corners of the earth, allowing the world to enter into the great tribulations, a changing of the hour. And we could be very much in those immediate days right now, as Jerusalem is certainly surrounded. And it's looking like for sure something's going to come out of it. And again, it could be just another birthing pain. But with the way that everything is playing out, and after I've walked a little bit further on this to understand the dream potentially better, we very well could be in the midst of that happening, which means look up. We see all these things happen. We see everything else Jesus spoke about. He draweth near. And those of us who know him, who are ready for him when he returns, we will meet him in the air. God bless.